Good evening, everyone. Just letting everyone know on the call that we're live streaming. Should have gotten a notification.
Good evening, all.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I think we can call this meeting to order. Adriana Friedman, Chair, and I do want to remind the board that this meeting is being live streamed on the COGS website, and to please identify yourself by name each time that you speak so that we can comply with our virtual meeting laws. And just so you know, the state also mandates that all votes conducted in our virtual meetings are by roll call. And I'm assuming it's not going to be Alana. Are you keep?
It's going to be me.
Okay, Alana's gonna call the roll for each vote that we need. And I'm gonna start with a brief moment of silence for our fellow delegate who has passed away, David Sieberlin, from the town of Cameron. I think many of you knew how sweet and kind David was. And so we've missed most of the activities with a late response, but we do want to make sure we take a moment. I will say that we will be working on a resolution for next meeting. And I'll just pause for a moment of silence. Thank you. It's a good centering practice, acknowledging that I think many times we all experience loss. And there's some things that just gotta call into the room. So I'll thank you for allowing me that. And I'm just gonna allow for Alana to call the roll.
All right. Good evening, everyone. So I'm going to do roll call, and I'll go by community name, and you delegate, please say your name first if you're here, and then Aberdeen.
Will Mulaney present.
Andrew. Ava.
Brett Ant, present.
Archer Lodge. Benson.
Cassandra Stack present.
Thank you. Broadway.
Town of Broadway, Thomasville, present.
Thank you. Carborough. Carthage. Perry. Chapel Hill. Chatham County.
Mike Dasher, present.
Clayton. City of Durham.
Adriana Freeman, present.
Durham County. Euclid Verena.
Larry Smith, present.
Thank you. Garner. Goldson. Hillsborough.
Hillsborough, Kathleen Ferguson, present. I was about to say North Carolina.
Holly Springs.
Tim Forrest, Holly Springs, present.
Johnson County. Kenley. Nightdale. Lee County.
Bill Carver present.
Micro. Moore County. Forestville. Orange County. Time level. Pinehurst,
Jeff Morgan, Pinehurst.
Pittsburgh,
Princeton, Don Raines, Mayor, present.
thank you. Raleigh. Robbins. Rolesville. Sanford. Selma,
Selma, Byron McAllister, present.
thank you, Mayor. Other city,
Siler City, Bill Haggis, present.
very much. Smithfield,
And, excuse me, Andy Moore, Smithfield.
Southern Pines. Bass. Dade County,
Susan Evans, present.
thank you. Wake Forest. Wendell,
Joe DeLoach, Wendell, here.
yeah. Whispering Pines. Wilson's Mills. And Zebulon. Is there anyone besides Mayor Marshburn who just entered the room that I may have missed?
You want my location?
Yeah.
Stuck in traffic.
That's about right.
It's that time of day.
Um, we have quorum.
Great. Well, thank you all for being here on the line and in the room. We're gonna review the agenda. And if there aren't any changes, continue. So first we have new employee introductions, then the COG grant and funding assistance. Is that all? Yeah. No. So we'll start with our recognitions, our new employee introductions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
So you guys have met several new employees over the past several months. We've been phasing them out. Like I think I said last time, most of them have been on staff for quite a while now. So with that, I'm going to throw it to Ashley Price to introduce her aging program specialist.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Ashley Price, and I am one of the aging program coordinators here at Triangle J Council of Governments. And I am happy to have John Dinasha on staff. We recently hired John in January, utilizing our American Rescue Plan Act funds. Historically, we have not had an evidence-based master trainer on staff. We have relied heavily on network connections. So we are really happy to have him in-house, and I will let John take it from here.
Thank you, Ashley. Good evening, everyone. I started back in January. Prior to coming to this COG, I had worked at the Area Agency on Aging as a care coordinator in Austin, Texas. My background is mainly in social work. The past 10 years have basically worked kind of all across the board within social services, case management, homelessness, mental health, collaboration in the community. And I'm still somewhat new to the Triangle area. Just moved here in October of 2021. And what I'll be working on is just this past February, I was trained as a master trainer for a matter of balance. So I'll be training lay leaders at our provider locations in the region for selected programs. So matter of balance, hopefully get trained in chronic disease self-management, and basically implementing leader recruitment activities and program outreach, and providing oversight and technical assistance as needed for the coaches that we train. We actually do have a training coming up next month, and conducting oversight for program fidelity. So making sure that the providers are running the classes as they should, and they have the support that's needed. And then just a little about me outside of work. I love exploring the Triangle or anywhere in North Carolina. I'm originally from Wisconsin, so I'm used to farm fields and not any hills whatsoever. So being here is awesome. I love being a day trip away from the mountains and the ocean, going to the gym, hiking, and then I really just love unplugging and being in nature. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, John. It's great to have you on board. And John was unable to make it tonight, but I would love to introduce you to Julio Rosado. It's been on staff for the past 4 or 5 months as a transportation and energy planner. So Julio.
Hi, my name is Julio Rosado. I'm a new transportation and energy planner. I work under Sean Flaherty, and I joined TJCOG in December 16th. So I obtained my bachelor's in the University of Puerto Rico, where I studied environmental science. While I was there, I focused mostly on energy-related subjects. So as a student, I worked at our university's biofuels lab for around 2 years, doing mostly standard lab work and also helping out grad students with their respective thesis. Through the faculty I met at the lab, I joined a group of staff who was going to the DOE's Brookhaven National Laboratory, where I attended as a summer science intern. And at that opportunity, I connected with the State University of New York's Environmental Science and Forestry campus at the end of the internship presentations. So then I attended that university for my graduate degree a couple months later, where I originally pursued a thesis in life cycle analysis. That said, I switched to focus more on policy-oriented subjects during the later half of my time in grad school. I think that happened because I went back to Puerto Rico to perform some hurricane relief activities following the wake of Hurricane Maria. And then I think slowly after that experience, I came to realize that I was more interested in what we can do with the knowledge that we have rather than doing the sort of primary science research that I had been doing until that point. So when I graduated, I was looking for a job that could blend my energy background with a more planning and program-oriented focus, which led me to here at TJCOG. So when I joined, I came in to work on these specific projects, which has changed since then. So my time now is mostly 50% clean cities and 50% transportation demand management. And the time I spend in TDM is mostly spent directing a program called Commute Friendly NC. And my role is education and outreach. And lately that has been reaching out to stakeholders, answering questions about upcoming funding opportunities. And most recently, it's meant the Clean Cities team hosted a webinar with around 60 participants. They were looking for information for a new grant opportunity called Community Fueling and Charging Infrastructure Grant. And I was in there helping out, answering questions that arose. And I'm also right now in the process of developing a follow-up Q&A resource for those who attended that webinar. So a little bit about me. In my spare time, things that I like doing the most is cooking, which some of the years are original dishes that I've made, and reading. So yeah, that's how I like to spend my spare time.
Thank you, Julia. Great to have you and John on board. And then I also want to take a moment to introduce Kimberly Monset, who is assisting us with clerk duties right now, but for the past several months, she's also been in several of our communities helping Micro and Kinley most recently, and also some communities in the Mid-Carolina region. She's a retired clerk from the town of Clayton. So we're happy to have her on board to help us out.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Glad to have you, Kimberly.
I know her. From a different time. Okay, yeah. Oh, thank you for the.
Well, we're glad you're here. And moving us along to the business, TJ Coggs grants and funding assistance. I'm gonna ask Alana and Lindsay to introduce the item. Thank you.
So Elena Keegan, I will get us started and then turn it over to Lindsay. And we're really excited to be sharing this presentation with all of you tonight. We have a lot going on in the areas of funding and grant assistance. And so we had asked that we provide an update to all of you so you know what's going on and how our program has been progressing. This is a fairly new program, a little over a year. As you can imagine, because there's a lot of things changing with funding and grant assistance right now. And so we've been trying to respond to that. So a little bit of background on how this program started. The original way that we were able to build capacity in this area was through the investment from the General Assembly and our organization and their COGS to assist with ARPA. All of you received ARPA funding, and we were given money to basically assist your local government. So I will talk about that in a minute. But that basically was the way that we built up capacity in this area. So we were able to hire staff with that funding who were trained in federal grant administration. And we started seeing there being other opportunities to work in this space. We were getting a lot of questions about other ARPA funding that was coming from the state that our local governments were also applying to, and realized that there was a lot of concern about capacity to handle all of this funding. We also saw a lot of opportunity for coordination. So everyone was individually trying to figure out what was going on and tracking funding opportunities, including our own staff at the COG. And so this was a way for us to sort of streamline that and do this program on behalf of everyone one time. Just a little bit more, and I think this might be helpful. I actually had a question from Mr. Carver a few minutes ago that I think this might help everyone with. So really the biggest change that's happened that's impacted this program are these three funding programs through the federal government. And this was the federal government's approach to COVID recovery. It was done through three programs. They all may be familiar to you, some of them may not. American Rescue Plan was obviously the first one in March of 2021. A significant amount of money towards COVID recovery, as well as a direct investment in each of your local governments. So you directly receive federal funds, which is not normally the case for many local governments. The majority of those funds are wrapping up besides local funds. So there's really no programs from the federal government that are coming out that are still funded with American Rescue Plan for money. There's a little bit at the state, but for the most part, that legislation is ending. The second one was the infrastructure law. And that it was a combination of existing funding that was being reauthorized for transportation programs that you may be familiar with in the state already. But half of it was for new spending in a range of infrastructure categories. So transportation, water infrastructure, broadband, other sort of resilience items. And most of those programs was authorized for 5 years. So those new programs, they're just finishing up their first round of funding, and they're projected to be 4 years. Some of them have a little asterisk where they've actually merged multiple years into 1 year, but for the most part, there's 5 years of those new programs. And then there's the Inflation Reduction Act, which is just rolling out. And that's the final piece of legislation from the federal government. It's mostly focused on climate related items. And it's a combination of actually competitive and formula funding programs. And then there's also a large amount of rebates and tax credits for individuals and for local governments to take advantage of. So a lot of stuff happening at the federal level. Just to quickly highlight, this is really not the focus of the presentation, but I did want to just outline the work we've been doing around ARPA with that General Assembly money. especially because we're working on it right now. Everyone has a report due on April 30th. And so we've been working with your local governments. So we have done a ton of work in this area. We work directly with 35 of our local governments in the region. We've communicated with all 47 of you, but we've actually been doing trainings and on-site visits and a variety of other things with 35 of you. And it's been a combination of a number of things, all the way up from administration of funds for Wake County and some of our smaller communities, to helping with reporting, to helping with compliance, and also some finance assistance, which has been something that's emerged from a lot of our smaller communities. And right now in progress are two key things. We have been the month of April doing on-site visits with our smaller local governments. So anyone under 10,000 population was actually reached out to directly by our staff to offer to come on site and help them with their report due on the 30th. And then we're also developing a monitoring toolkit. And I will not bore everyone with sub-award monitoring, but it's basically when you're giving money to another organization, you have to follow along with what they're doing with your money. And it is a really onerous process. And so we are doing that for Wake County, and we're going to be putting together some resources for all the other large communities that also need to follow that process. So we're going to move away from ARPA. So this is our team right now. We've really been able to ramp up capacity. We have 5 different individuals who are working on this program. None of us full time, but all of us a significant amount. And the main thing I wanted to point out about this slide is that each of the individuals are assigned to counties. So the way we've structured the program is that each community that's within a county has the same person as any of the other communities within your county. So it's meant to really encourage coordination, make sure that we know what's going on. If you're in Lee County and someone else is in Lee County in the program, we know when you're interested in the same grant and may be able to apply together. So the program is structured as a fee-based program, our grants program, which is why we're able to have 5 different people providing capacity to local governments. It's based on population size and on an annual basis, which is how we often structure our programs. And there's a range of things that we can be doing on behalf of communities. It really depends on the local government and the place they're in with how they approach grants. Some have historically not been involved in grants at all, and some have a full process that they are involved in and they just want some help. We have 15 local governments in the program right now, and we have a few others who are considering for the upcoming year, which we're really excited about. They're as large as the city of Durham and as small as the town of Cameron. So we really range in size for the program. And each of them is assigned at least 1 community contact, if not 2. And one of the things that we found to be most important about this program is ongoing communication. So we do a range of things on behalf of all of our local governments. We update them on funding opportunities. We talk with them about their funding priorities. And one of the ways that we really have found most effective is to have ongoing communication. So we have these designated team members who are working with the local governments for the whole year. We also have monthly or bi-monthly meetings with their grant contacts, depending on how often they would like to meet, where we talk through applications in progress, applications that we're working on behalf of them, funding that's coming in the year ahead that they may want to consider. And then we also have some more automated communications tools that we've put in place so that there doesn't have to be a meeting to keep up with what's going on. Any local governments that's in the program, their staff, any of their staff can actually opt into email notifications from our dashboard, which is where we track all of the grant opportunities. And Lindsay will talk about that in a minute. And then we also have dashboards for each of our communities. So anyone in the local government can go and check out all of the funding opportunities that we're tracking, any details that our team has put in about specific nuances related to the information. And it's just an easier way for them to keep up with stuff. And then they're also welcome to email any of their team members at any time. I'll turn over to Lindsay.
Yeah, thanks. So like Elena said, we have very diverse communities that are participating in our program. So we try to meet them where they are in terms of their grant needs. So this slide is sort of a spectrum of needs. So in some cases, we might help a community simply research a topic or potential proposal. Or we might help them with the actual application required, or we might provide like an overview of the notice of funding or the application requirements just to see if it's a good fit. Or on the other side of things, we might actually help write the narrative, and then think strategically about the project development. And then with all the different funding coming down so soon, like sometimes it's about thinking about these projects well in advance, not just reacting with the 45 days that you have to respond. And so as Elena spoke about earlier with the Airtable, it's a database that we use to help us track internally as well. So it's like sort of a one-stop shop where we're cataloging all of the different opportunities because there are so many different opportunities, as well as you know, which legislative package is it under, or is it state funded? You know, what's the funding source? Things like that. And then again, like I said, it will help us internally in the future move forward with tracking these different opportunities, so we're not duplicating efforts at a COG level. And then this is you know, another image of Airtable. I realize it's a bit hard to read here, but this is what our participants in the program can see this on their end if they want to log into Airtable. They can see what grants we have underway for that community, what grants what grants are in ideation phase, what grants are in process of being reviewed. So it's sort of helping us track the status of each of those applications, as well as who's the lead. Is it the municipal or county government themselves, or are we at TJ Cog taking the lead? And again, the funding funding opportunity, and then also program status. Is it active? Is it closed? Is it coming up? So that just again helps helps the community to see the status. And then next slide. And the communities can also see this image from Airtable as well. And so if they choose, they can get email updates from Airtable. So if we put something in there, it would directly go to their inbox saying that they have an upcoming opportunity that's relevant to their community's priorities or community needs. And then they can also go in and, like I said, see what applications are currently active. And one thing that's nice about Airtable is it's like a cloud-based application, so multiple people can be in the source at once. So and it's also pretty easy to use. I am the worst at it on our grant team, and I still somehow managed to use it, so I'm just throwing that out there. So next slide, please. Yeah, so by the numbers, we've analyzed 400 plus funding opportunities, which it seemed like more, but and then we've submitted 60 applications totaling 14.2 million, awarded 3.03 million, and then we have submitted multi-jurisdictional applications totaling 1.3 million. So that's another benefit of the program too, obviously, is if multiple communities are thinking about doing the same thing, we steer them together to do a joint application. And sometimes that doesn't always work out, but we can at least explore that opportunity.
You guys make those recommendations saying here's an opportunity for two cities to get together or something?
Yeah, I mean, one example would be with the Swiffer, it was through EPA, I can't remember what it stands for, but it was a recycling solid waste grant, and Durham City and Durham County both applied, and we explored whether that should be a joint application, but it just didn't make sense for it, so we're not going to force it, but that's an example. And we got them on the line together. It just didn't make sense.
So 1.3 included in the 14.2? Up there, 1.4.
Yeah. So yeah, this is the fun part, talking about what's been awarded. So recently got awarded a $250,000 Safe Streets and Roads for All. So that was a joint application with Lee County, Broadway, Morrisville, and Sanford. And that's an opportunity where each local government did have to put in a small match, but if they would have done it on their own, they would have had to put in what, $40,000, because yeah, so this was sort of a cost share effort to make it more affordable for each community.
I'm just going to ask another question. I'm sorry, but Lee County is up there. I'm considering getting into the thing.
Yeah.
Why am I showing up there? Is that because Sanford's involved?
Yeah, that was because of, they're a
Okay.
part of the program.
Their planning department had you all submit a resolution in support, so it is gonna benefit you this
I
grant.
got you.
Yeah,
So they did
Community.
use money, yeah.
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 yeah. And then we've gotten 2 million in rural transformation grant program funds, which is dollars passed through, from ARPA to through NC Commerce. So Carthage is getting some downtown revitalization dollars, around 350,000. Bass has almost no sidewalks and they're getting 650,000 to construct sidewalks, to connect their school to the park, to the downtown, which is exciting. Wilson Mills got funding for a comprehensive utility plan. And then this was actually in last fiscal year, but I still wanted to share it. We got Sanford almost $1 million for a agricultural marketplace. And then $400,000 for Rollsville through an earmark funding to provide funding for their Main Street park improvement. And we have a lot on the right, you'll see submitted and under review. These are all applications that we currently have under review, which is a lot. So SWIFR stands for Solid Waste Infrastructure for Recycling. I spoke about that one earlier. That was a new one. So we've done an accessibility for parks for Siler City that we're still waiting to hear back. Golden Leaf for Pittsburgh, we just submitted that a couple weeks ago for a flood mitigation project. Governor's Crime Commission for Fuquay Arena, and then environmental justice government to government, that was on the EIL, that's from EPA, that's for the city of Durham, and then a couple art community funding for Vass and Carthage, and then we also have various others. Yeah, we have a lot right now, and we're also submitting like 4 or 5 next week. But so next slide, please. So just looking at the opportunity ahead, we're trying to track the BIL and IRA, or make a dashboard specific to BIL and IRA, because there are so many different opportunities that will be multiple years under those different programs. And then also like looking at what was awarded and what wasn't under those different programs. And that's another benefit too. If you're not awarded, we can help work with that funding, that funder to identify why, hopefully improve for next year.
Can I ask you about that? Because Apex submitted a Safe Streets implementation grant that we didn't get.
Yeah.
And I think we're the only one in the area that did that, we're that far ahead. And I think we would love to know why. And also, I think we'd be willing to share our thoughts to the other people that are going to be coming down the line about that particular grant in the next 5 years, what we learned from that process.
Yeah.
And so that there's a lot of value in that, I think.
Yeah.
And even outside the COG, I think there's value in that. Are you doing anything outside of this area and learning what got funded, what didn't get funded, and kind of why?
We haven't gotten that far. We do have some conversations going with the state about ways that we can expand it across the state. So it's very early stages, but they're trying to figure out how the state approaches all this money as well, and works with all of us to sort of coordinate that information. So yeah, no real information.
I know in North Carolina, Charlotte got one. They were the only one of that particular grant, and that was annoying to me. I'd rather be in our area, I'd rather be Apex, but really, so to try and do better next time, I think it would be of interest for us. And I assume a lot of people, and there's like 20 of these kind of grants like that. I think would be.
Well, that's kind of to the last point, like examining year one of BIL and IRA, even though with Safe Streets under BIL. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah.
Okay.
Because there's also very weird nuances with how the federal government works. Like you can't ask now because the program has reopened, but you could when it was not open. There's like sort of these weird things that no one's paying attention to in local governments. You have other things to worry about.
We did ask.
You did ask.
We had a meeting,
Okay,
in it, and I think we'd be willing to share what we learned.
oh, you do know. Okay, good.
You don't have me, but our staff. Anyway.
Well, that's good.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
that would be the number one thing to do. But
Okay.
Yeah, and then again, opportunity to have multi-jurisdictional applications when they make sense, and think about that continued project development, because a lot of these different funding programs are wanting to work on a regional level, whether that's the entire region, 2 counties, whatever it may be. But so just thinking regionally would be key. And then the climate and energy funding collaborative, which I must admit I don't know what that is, and I will later briefly.
there's just a ton of funding in climate and energy. So we've started anyone is welcome to come, but we've at least started with the larger communities that have received formula funding from the Inflation Reduction Act. Make sure that they're all in a room together talking about it. And we're hoping to expand that to anyone who's interested in just learning about those opportunities. Climate and energy is basically the entire Inflation Reduction Act. So.
And then lastly, the climate pollution reduction grant. I think we're in the process of submitting our proposal, but TJ Cog will be leading on behalf of multiple MFAs. And that was, again, designated money to the top 60, 80 most populous MFAs, and we're 649, 50. So yeah, we should be getting money to develop well, I should clarify, it's for the Raleigh region.
Yes, the Raleigh Cary.
Yeah.
MSA.
It's term 92, I think.
Yeah, but we're actively talking to the state and EPA about how we are inclusive of the Durham Chapel Hill MSA as well when we're doing this plan, and there's support from EPA and the state and us doing that. So technically the money will be for Wake, Johnston, and Franklin counties, but we will do the planning for the region, our region.
Could you define MSA?
Metropolitan Statistical Area. It's a state, the federal designated urban sort of metro area based on the census. And in our region, there's the Raleigh Cary MSA, which is Wake, Johnston, and Franklin. And then there's the Durham Chapel Hill MSA, which is Durham, Orange, Chatham, might be Person. I don't remember.
So with that one, presumably the community could be in the Raleigh Cary MSA and be part of that thing, or the statewide one, but both, I think. And I think understanding which one is the better route for our communities, I think would be of value. I'm not sure if you know that really, but I've been interested in that one because I'm like, it's better off being part of that smaller application or the big statewide one. And
well, so the state is going to be the state's plan.
Yeah.
So it's sort of actually two different things. So there's going to be the statewide, which basically the statewide one will cover everyone who is not in an eligible MSA.
Okay.
Which the only MSAs that are officially covered would be the Raleigh, Cary, and the Charlotte. And we're we proposed with EPA to include Durham, Chapel Hill, and ours because it stops in the middle of 40 and it's related to greenhouse gases. And but so everyone else in the state will be under the state's plan. So the benefit to being in the MSA's plan is you can determine what's eligible for future and implementation phases. This is all planning.
Yeah.
I think with that, we'll just open it up for questions. If there are.
I think they've done a great job of asking them while you were presenting.
It's correct to characterize the new funding initiatives as being targeted to local governments rather than states. Is that a correct statement?
Somewhat. There's more kind of local governments than there seems to have been in the past.
Then puts more responsibility on the local governments smart enough to be able to.
Yeah, because most of it's competitive.
Yeah.
So it's only if you apply and win. The state will also receive money though as well for some of these programs.
But you would help us, kind of like the question that was asked here. In other words, we need to be looking more toward the state in a particular need as opposed to independence, and you would help us sort that kind of thing out.
Well, I mean, Lee, the state has been bringing us to the table already on some of those programs. So I think they're trying to think through how they have capacity gaps as well. Not that we can solve the state's capacity problems, but they're trying to think through how they can use the regions to address their own funding conversations as well. I think they would use it more for like regional scope projects, but so we are aware of what's going on in the state as well, or we're trying to be.
And I mean, it makes sense, just noting 40 and 85, 77, they're interstate. So
yeah,
trying to make sure that they're.
So for instance, like HARTIP grants funded through the state, that's a separate entity. And so what your program is doing, is separate and apart from that, right?
Yeah, so
Wait, you said part of, right? Yeah, no, I'm actually writing one for VAS right now. So.
yeah, so we
Yeah.
can help with things that are not these three programs. These
Yeah.
programs are really the reason we started the program. But communities can use us for any grant they would like to apply
Like
for.
the slide where we stated some of the ones that we were, can you go back to that? Like the AARP, that's just a foundation type or.
Yeah,
So it-
whatever.
yeah, we do some like fountain, we've done like the T-Mobile hometown revitalization for some of our smaller, so it can really be anything, it doesn't have to be BIL or ARPA. And a lot of these are starting at like the ARPA level, they're just being passed through the state. So for example, the accessibility for parks, that was a one-time through ARPA that got passed through the state. And then the Golden Leaf was another one, their flood mitigation program, I think that's maybe additional money from
Yeah,
one of the
and rural
programs,
transformation
but
was as well.
well, and yeah, and rural transformation was they got $50 million, I believe, total passed through from ARPA, passed through NC Commerce, so. And that's obviously been an impactful program, but based on the four that have already been awarded, so. Brett said this isn't me. We're tired. Yeah, we're tired. I know. It's fun, we like it, so we have good teams.
Can we get copies of your presentation?
Yes.
Appreciate it. If you sign me up, I appreciate it.
I would say the same for that collaborative.
Okay.
For the climate and energy.
Yeah.
I do think that there's a way to expand upon the funds that are being created so that they actually can be sustainably regenerative. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great presentation. None of us said our names before speaking. I apologize for those of you on the line. But yes, as we move forward, we actually have our consent agenda, which has the draft minutes from January 25th, 2023, and the budget amendment for Morrisville small business grants. Any items? There were no items being removed. If not seeing anyone trying to remove them, I'm gonna move forward with a motion.
Madam Chair, this is Kathleen from Hillsborough. Move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Kathleen Ferguson in Hillsborough. A second, Don Raines.
Don Raines, proud to be here after a 2-hour commute.
From the town of Princeton. Thank you. And Alana, if you call the roll call vote.
So just as a reminder for consent, only one vote per community. I don't think we have any delegates and alternates, but delegate only if you're both here. Aberdeen.
Will Mulaney votes aye.
Anger. Apex.
Brett Gant, aye.
Archer Lodge. Benson.
Cassandra Stack, aye.
Broadway. Harper.
Broadway says aye.
Thank you so much. Scarborough. Carthage. Perry. Chapel Hill. Chatham County.
Mike Dasher, aye.
Clayton. City of Durham.
Adriana Freeman votes aye.
Durham County. Fuquay Varina.
Larry Smith votes aye.
Garner.
Ken Marshall votes aye.
Hillsborough.
Kathleen Ferguson, aye. Hillsborough.
Thank you. Holly Springs.
Timothy Forrest, Holly Springs, votes aye.
Johnson County. Henley. Nightdale. Lee County,
Bill Carter, I. Lee County.
Micro. Warren County. Morrisville. Orange County. Level. Pinehurst. We can't hear you if you are speaking for Pinehurst. Come back. Pittsburgh,
Pamela Baldwin, Town of Pittsburgh, I.
thank you. Princeton,
Don Rains, Town of Preston, aye.
Raleigh. Robbins. Rollsville. Sanford. Selma,
Byron McAllister, aye.
thank you. Dollar City,
Siler City, Bill Haggis, aye.
Smithfield,
Andy Moore, Smithfield, aye.
Southern Pines. Bass. Wake County,
Susan Evans, White County, I.
Wake Forest. Wendell,
Wendell Joe Deloach, aye.
Whispering Pine. Wilson's Mills. And Zebulon. Is there anyone that I have missed?
This is Jeff Morgan, Pinehurst, aye.
Thank
Sorry,
you
won't
so
be
much.
button.
No problem. We have a unanimous, yeah.
Thank you, Lana, and thank you all for moving the agenda forward. I do want to move us to the public hearings for the Triangle J Council of Government recommended FY 2022-2023 budget. And I'm gonna ask Lee Worsley, gonna take this part over and present the item.
Okay. Good evening, members of the board, staff, and others that are here tonight. I'm pleased to present to you my recommended budget for Triangle J Council of Governments for fiscal year 2023-24. And so just as a reminder, thank you. I'll present the budget. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Then we'll ask the chair to open the budget public hearing. And once any comments are made from the public, close the hearing. Tonight is just sort of the introduction of the budget, and the resolution will be before you for consideration of adoption at your May meeting. So we'll get rocking and rolling here. So just a reminder about the process. It's dictated by the charter for the organization. And this is actually one of the items that is in the amended charter. We're addressing in the amended charter that we sent to our local governments. Right now, we're required to have a budget out by April the 15th, and it really puts the squeeze on getting the document done, and because we still don't have final health insurance numbers. It's a major driver. So we've in the charter, what we've said is that going forward, we would always have recommended member dues to our members by the 15th of April, because we'll know that. And then the budget document would be produced by May 15th. We just need a little more time. It's always a rush to get this done. And I feel a little weird sometimes getting a budget out without knowing exact health insurance numbers. And we're presenting the budget to you tonight. And we'll do the public hearing. I'll meet with the COG officers in early May to talk about any input, any questions that they have about the budget. And then at your May 24th meeting, the resolution will be presented for your consideration. So this year's total budget is right at about $40.4 million. That's about a 17% increase. from the adopted budget of this year, which was right about 34.5. So what's driving the majority of that increase? Most of the increases are due to welcoming the Durham Chapel Hill Carborough MPO to Triangle J. That's going to be at a minimum $2 million more. We don't have the operational budget yet, but that's personnel. Just talked about the great work in the grant assistance program, and then the additional revenue from the recommended member dues increase really make up the bulk of the budget increase. So let's talk about the recommended member assessment or member dues increase. We have not recommended or increased dues since 1996-97. It's been at 39 cents since then. I think you all know, and as you deal with your own budgets, we've had a lot of pressure, especially over the last several years, around salaries, inflation, cost of doing business. It is, and I think some of you that have been on the board have seen our contingency numbers sort of drop lower and lower every year as we've squeezed every penny that we can out of the budget. We just can't continue to do that. So I am recommending a 2-cent per capita increase in dues up to 200,000 population. And I'm also recommending that the cap for the drop in member dues go from 150,000 to 200,000. So as a reminder, the way our dues are structured right now, local governments pay for 39 cents per capita up to 150,000. And for those like a Durham or a Raleigh that are above 150,000, the dues drop to 20 cents for the remainder of that population. So I'm recommending that cap go up to 200,000. Also a reminder, the counties only pay for the unincorporated population because they pay a significant share of the Area Agency on Aging administration budget that's needed. So that's why the counties only pay on that unincorporated portion. So member dues would be coming in at about 781,000. 2 cents is about $70,000 in additional revenue. 1 cent gets us about 35,000 or so dollars. So really, again, our member dues are the only flexible money that we have as an organization to fund leadership positions, to have time to actually lead and to look for new opportunities and to manage their staff. It's the only source of revenue that we have to pay the match for different programs that we receive. It helps make up differences for a significant number of staff members, 15 with this budget, that we can't quite fill their entire salary with projects. So again, 8 projects of our 45 to 50 have a local match requirement that we're using those monies for. 15 positions that we have some portion of member dues. There's not a single position in the organization that's 100% member dues funded. Everybody has member dues and something else filling their salary. So if you think about the total budget of the organization, it's a small percentage, but I say many times our funding structure, I don't want to say it's a pyramid. That's a bad connotation, but it is. It's a reverse pyramid. It's the smallest amount of funding in some respects, but if it's not there, maybe it's a house of cards. It all falls. If we don't have the members' dues, we can't leverage and bring in the additional money.
Mm-hmm.
So we're really proud of our new mission and vision, and thank you to this board for supporting us with that. But we're a member-driven organization. I think you heard that tonight with the grant program and the other things you'll see in this budget presentation. We serve as a leading resource to connect communities and enhance their strategic priority outcomes through regional policy, collaboration, and technical assistance. And our vision is that we become the premier regional organization that addresses the needs of our local governments. And through your support and through this budget, we continue to make really positive strides toward that. So a lot of credit to the board for the support and a lot of credit to our staff for doing really great work. So as part of our strategic plan, we have organizational principles. So our 5 organizational principles really serve as the foundation for the organization as a whole. You know, an organization is a living thing. And what does this organization really strive to be? Individuals make up the organization and they work through their core values, which is part of the plan. But this is really about all of us as a collective whole. What do? We serve our local government members, and the budget continues significant funding to assist local governments with ARPA, grant writing, partnership with Mid-Carolina Regional Council for Finance, and a significant assistance to the town of Micro. Now they're going to be paying for most of that. But those are just some examples of how we're serving our local government members. We continue to be committed to diversity, equity, inclusion. And I'm sorry, that should not say increased funding. The funding remains steady at 10% for a position to focus on DEI for our organization. And we continue to work with the Government Alliance for Race and Equity on implementing some really exciting things where we're going to be analyzing programs based on an equity survey that a group of employees have been working on, and some other things. Strategic alignment. This means that our programs are talking to each other. Okay, we're trying not to be siloed. It's really hard in a cog where funding comes in very distinct ways and is very limited a lot of times for us to be aligned strategically. But this is the first full year of the new strategic plan with goals, objectives, and measures. And so we'll continue to be working on our alignment, and our leadership team, at least quarterly, will be meeting to talk about our progress on the plan. Thought leadership. We talked a little bit already about the climate pollution reduction grant. We're really excited about that. We're also very excited about our proposed connected region plan. I'll talk about that a little bit later. And then data-driven decision-making. Strategic plan really is our first real effort in attaching performance measures and things to see how we're doing. And we'll be able to dashboard that hopefully as well. So our strategic focus areas. So rather than really have departments, we have strategic focus areas where we focus on our work. These hopefully are familiar to you: aging and human services, environment resilience, member support strategy, community economic development, mobility and transportation, and housing. So let's talk a little bit about our aging and human services in the year ahead. Man, this group has had a ton of funding with American Rescue Plan. And while that's great, it's tough to work with the state on some of this stuff. And the state still doesn't have some of the guidance and some of the information that we need to be able to get some of this money out effectively. Our team's done a great job, but there are a ton of little projects that the state's thrown on this group, and they're continuing to do really good work. We continue to enhance services and supports for vulnerable older adults. And we continue to really, the foundation of the Area Agency on Aging and its connection to the state is the Older Americans Act and the Area Agency on Aging plan that is updated every 4 years. So they'll continue to work on that. Lindsay heads up, and Mary Warren heads up that focus area. Lindsay Whitson heads up our community and economic development team. They have done a really good job of bringing money in and looking for opportunities to support communities. So a few examples of that is an EPA Brownfields grant, $500,000 to support Wake Forest and Fuquay with brownfields, a new partnership with the NC Biotech Center We'll support an ambassador program to connect and look to create opportunities for historically excluded populations for careers in life science. And then you just did a budget amendment for the new Small Business Administration micro grant for Morrisville that we will be helping to administer. And again, just a small example, small little piece of things that her team's doing. Our member support and strategy group, that's headed by Elena, making sure she talked to you already about the American Rescue Plan and making sure that folks are complying. She talked to you about the grant assistance program. We're working a lot in the town of Micro. Kimberly actually is the interim clerk for Micro. I'm going down there tomorrow all day. Nancy Medlin's been down there quite a bit. Hope Talley, our CFO, has been down there as well. We've also brought in the planning director from Mid-Carolina Regional Council to help them with some planning issues. And their board is really great to work with. It's a really neat board, very small community. They're very thankful for the help. And they would probably be taken over by the local government commission if it wasn't for people like Kimberly and Nancy and Hope and Haley from Mid-Carolina. They've done some really good work.
And Lee.
Well, I work with good people. So we will continue to administer 20 million for Wake County through the Elevate Wake initiative, supporting 72 nonprofits and administering those funds. That's through ARPA funding. Housing, Lindsay also manages our housing focus area. We have a long-standing partnership with Chatham County. And we actually have some funding, some grant funding to fund a part-time street outreach coordinator to work directly with people who are unhoused in Chatham County. We're administering a number of essential single-family home repair programs for 6 counties. And we also have a new opportunity with Duke University to do a land inventory project to identify potential properties in Durham for affordable housing. Environment and Resilience is Emily Barrett manages that program. You may have seen the news report on WRAL where our Solarize the Triangle program broke records, best in the United States. A number of local governments partnered together to bring solar to individuals in their private residences, and we're getting ready to kick off the Solarize 23 campaign. And I'm really excited too. There's several communities who have decided to put additional money in the Solarize program to also try to impact individuals who may be low to moderate income, and making sure that those individuals also have access to solar opportunities. So we'll be helping to administer that program.
Lee?
Yes.
And this is just, apparently I'm just inundated, but I didn't see any kind of press release on that, but that I would love to have a press release or social media, because that is a big deal to get out in the world.
Okay. On the Solarize campaign?
Yeah,
okay. I think we did a little bit, but we'll make sure we push out some additional stuff. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
If you, yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. And if you can copy me, or at least to the entire group, and
We will.
thank you.
Thank you. We have a new staff member getting ready to start, I think in June, that'll help lead a regional recovery resilience effort. It's a direct appropriation from the General Assembly. We talked about the US EPA Climate Pollution Reduction Grant. We will be submitting our intent to be the lead agency for that. That's a guaranteed $1 million for the Raleigh-Cary MSA. We've had support from multiple local governments, the MPO. We don't think there'll be another entity applying, but we're pretty prepared and have everything ready to go for that. And again, our intent is to try as best we can to be inclusive of our other counties in that work. And we've again made EPA and the state aware of that. Something else that just actually sort of materialized yesterday will be supporting several local governments in Johnston County as they begin to look at opportunities to cooperate around water and sewer. So that's exciting as well. Mobility and transportation, Matt Day's our lead on that. We talked about safe routes to school already. A lot of opportunities in clean transportation, 2 new projects there. We've already talked, a lot of the stuff we already talked about. Some folks have been stealing my thunder. It's good. Safe Streets for All for Morrisville, Lee County, Sanford, and Broadway. Of course, we're welcoming the Durham Chapel Carborough MPO to the COG. And we continue support for our friends down in Moore County, Pinehurst, Southern Pines, Aberdeen, Pine Bluff, Taylortown, Whispering Pines, and the county, and maybe other local governments. They've been designated through the census process as eligible and required to form their own metropolitan planning organization, MPO. And we're assisting them in thinking about how they form that and who's involved. And so been doing a lot of meeting around that as well. And then administration. I guess Jenny and I sort of lead that. Probably Jenny more than me, quite frankly. She's doing a great job overseeing operations. We're going to be procuring a new finance system for the organization. Transitioning the organization in its new legal name to Central Pines, transitioning the staff from the city of Durham to Triangle J through the MPO transition, and then managing the renovation of this space from 9,500 square feet to 21,000 square feet. So that's what we'll be up to, and some other stuff in the next year.
1 year?
Just 1 year.
Yeah, just 4 bullets.
It's worth it. That's all we're doing. Here's an overview of new and reclassified positions. 2 existing positions are going to be reclassed, and I've talked to the board about this as we did a reorganization a few years ago. My goal was to bring the leadership team up to director status. So we have reclasses for member support and strategy director and an environment and resilience director. A new position, a planner 1 to help the Safe Routes to Schools award, a new position in finance and accounting tech and HR tech. That's a combo position. They'll be doing both to assist, especially with onboarding of 11 new people all at once. A contract procurement specialist. I worked in Durham County, a $300-400 million budget, and the number of contracts I get here and the complexity of them rival Durham County, and we don't have somebody really dedicated on contracting and procurement and grant adherence and stuff. So we're going to be trying to hire for that position. Of course, 11 new positions coming over from the MPO. One of those positions is a transfer of a Triangle J position that's in the mobility transportation focus area into the MPO. So it's really a net of 10 positions coming over. And then an NC Lead Fellow. Some of you may have heard of the School of Government's NC Lead Initiative, which tries to engage talented individuals who are just graduating to get engaged in public service. So we'll have a position dedicated to not just the town of Micro, but I think there'll be some additional work in Johnston County, probably around that water sewer issue and some other things. So we'll have them working on a few things in JOCO. So around salary and benefits, and as we've compared ourselves to other local governments and COGS, we fall pretty much in line with what recommendations are. Last year we were really aggressive with our salary recommendations. I think the market has cooled just a little bit in terms of pay increases, but still a little warm. So I think this follows that. We're recommending a 3% market adjustment. So that would be for all Triangle J employees. Some people may call that a COLA. We would also increase the minimum salaries of all positions by 3%. And then a merit adjustment for employees who are eligible. of another 3%. So some employees may be eligible for 6% increase. And then our health insurance, we had initially budgeted for 20% increase. We got a first set of quotes that was at 15. And then through some additional negotiation from our broker, I believe we're down to 10, but still don't have a final number. So, 10. I think it's 10.
Oh, I'm working with brokers.
Yeah. No, it's like either work with our broker or you'll have to talk to Jenny. And then they just also want to work with the broker. I don't know why. So we work with the league as our health insurance provider, and they've been a good partner. So all right, let's see. It's not going forward anymore. All right, so let's talk about indirect. So the one really unique thing about a COG budget is that it's not like a local government budget. So this is when I always ask the elected officials, take your local government hat off and put on your COG hat, because we have to budget differently. So because of our federal grants and programs and everything, we spread our overhead, the cost of our lease for this building, our IT, our finance staff, our executive staff, we spread that across all our programs. And to be able to do that equitably, we have a percentage that we apply to the salary and fringe cost of each program. So when you look at a budget, you probably look at departments. When you look at the COG budget, it's projects. And I might be 15% on this one and 20% on that one. Every project is charged a percentage for indirect. And I always list the indirect rates. So the rate was pretty high, and we've been steadily bringing the rate down because we've gotten more revenue. We've brought in more employees, and the rate is spiking this year. So you see it's gone from 33 to 53.7%. And you may say, what in the world is going on? What's that horrible executive director doing? But I can explain it. It's a 1-year spike. We're renovating the space. We need to look at a new finance system. We've worked with our leadership team. They've been well aware of this. They've done a wonderful job managing and working through this. But we've got to have a one-time infusion of cash to purchase new furnishings for the space, to purchase the technology for the space, to have the money available for our new finance system. So that is the spike. If it wasn't for those things, the rate would have been about 37. So it would have been a little bit of a modest increase. My hope is that we'll get through this year, spend that money that we need, and then the rate will come back down next year. But I wanted to be real transparent with why the rate's gone up so much.
Help me out with the indirect rate.
Yes, sir.
If I get $1 million in funding in, then I give back to this thing 53%. Is that the way that works?
No, sir. It's if you had $1 million in salaries and fringe costs. So it's only applied on the salaries and the fringe. So if a project has $1 million in salaries and fringe, then you add the salaries and the fringe together, and then you apply this rate to it. And that's the amount that comes out for overhead.
It goes back to the COG.
It goes back to yes, it comes to the entity and goes into our admin budget to fund the administrative costs.
But that $1 million, then an additional 53%
Yes, sir.
taken out of the funding.
Yes, so you would need to fully fund that project, you would need $1,530,000 some odd thousand.
Sometimes run into the situation where there's a limit on that kind of overhead for the funding, and therefore puts us out of competition for it. Can that happen?
Well, there could be a lot of things that happen. I'll give you a couple quick examples. So our rate has to be approved by what's called our cognizant agency, federal agency. And it's the agency that basically we interact with the most around federal funding. And for us, it's the U.S. Economic Development Administration. And we show them, here's our plan for how we're going to use our administrative funds. They look at it, make sure it checks all the boxes, it's used appropriately, and they say, yep, you're good. And what's supposed to happen is because they're the ones that really look at it, every other federal agency and state agency is supposed to accept that, no questions asked. There are many agencies that don't understand that and then question us. There are also ways that an agency can get out of doing that by upfront saying, we're only going to pay 10%. And we actually have a couple programs where we're limited. And so what happens is, because we're limited, we have to infuse other money in there to make it work.
If I
So
remember correctly, on the ARPA, there was a 15% limit on administrative overhead, et cetera.
that's for, that didn't cover our costs. I think it was more around when we were subbing that money out or sending it out, there was a cap on admin, I believe.
Yeah, we have, our ARPA money is revenue replacement.
That's right.
So it's
So
the
I'm
category.
getting down on the weeds.
you're fine. No, I think it's
But that was just Bill Carver asking.
Bill Carver asking really good questions.
Yeah. Would it, I'm sure you've already done the numbers, but would it be better to lease some of the furniture for like 3 years for finances?
We did look at that, and we actually talked to our leadership team about that. So the question basically is, do you want a 1-year spike? Or would you rather the rate go up, not as much, but have to be higher for 3 years? And through conversations with the leadership team, they said, we think we would be better to try to handle it in 1 year and then for it to float back down. It's a great question. And we had quite a few conversations about that. All right. So contingency funding. So again, this is the funding that the only money that we have available for emergencies. If a new program comes about and we need to provide a match and to build fund balance. And that is something that we need to be doing. Our fund balance is not where it needs to be. We need to build fund balance. So in previous years, the contingency number's been in the anywhere from 50,000 to maybe 80. We're at 123,773 for this year. I would have liked to have been, I would like to have been more to build fund balance a little bit more, but all the moving parts and the move and everything else, that's where we've landed.
Lee, is that an amount that each cog has to sell?
Yes, sir.
Obviously, for municipalities,
Talk about the 8%.
yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah, the local government commission really doesn't look at, we don't have the percentage that you have because of the way our funding and the way our payables go and timing. But it's not where it needs to be. For probably 10 years, we've actually had a negative unassigned fund balance. And that's a typical thing for a cog. But my goal is I want to see that in a positive. And I've not made any, I mean, I've been pretty clear, I've got about 5 years left until I can retire. And my goal is to build the budget in a way that when I leave or you all kick me out in a few years, that fund balance is where it needs to be. But I've gone back audit to audit to audit to audit, and we've been in that sort of position for a long, long time. But our total fund balance is really healthy because we have so many assigned fund balances because of all our programs. So it would have been nice to just say, hey, let's pay for all this furniture, let's appropriate fund balance, but can't do that. So
I think your goal is commendable.
yeah. So we've been in stabilization mode for the last several years, building members. And now I think we're in a position where we can start building the cash and put, the next executive director in a really good position to be able to really expand and do some good things.
and recalling budgets in the past, your payroll liabilities or future for retirees will eventually be dropping because you're not paying for benefits.
That's right.
Fewer employees after retirement age.
Yeah. Just what Mayor Raines is referring to. I think it was 2 years, maybe 3 years ago, this board. I made a recommendation, the board approved that we stop providing retiree insurance to any new employees. Employees that were at the COG still have that guaranteed benefit, but the new employees are not guaranteed retiree insurance.
It would probably be good to also, I mean, just because the contingency fund is listed to show what our program fund balances are, so that folks don't feel like that's all there is.
Right.
Didn't want to try to read anything else,
No.
but yeah, other than that, I think that's good.
So I'm happy, Madam Chair, I'm happy to answer questions and I would recommend that you, when the questions are done, that you open a public hearing and see if any members of the public have anything to say.
Definitely. So I'm going to start with the board. If you have questions, I'm looking around the room and any raised hands online.
Bill Carver, I'd like to ask one question.
Yes, sir.
You talk about in your mission concept, regional collaboration, that kind of thing.
Yes, sir.
Is that a push initiative or a pull initiative in the organization? And am I saying, do we as members come to you and say, here's a great idea, or you mostly find that you're initiating those kinds of things?
That is a great question. I think it is both. And so one of the other principles is thought leadership. And I think part of what with this new strategic plan, we do need to be pushing a little bit more in a good way, objective way around some ideas. And I didn't talk a lot about the connected region, but that is a push where we're saying, this region has not had a regional vision and strategy since 1969, and it's time to do that again. So that's a push. A pull is what happened yesterday evening in Johnston County, where they're talking about collaborating around water and sewer, and they have asked us to come in and help facilitate. So I think it's a little of both, sir.
This understanding started with when you were arguing for your new spaces and you start saying, well, this is a good collaborative space.
Yes, sir.
And I'm thinking, well, when was the last time Lee County asked you to get together with anything? And except maybe to play cards or something.
Yeah.
So, I was just wondering whether or not there's some sort of an education that needs to be done where you kind of say, hey, let me give you some things that other people are doing and how you might be able to initiate some of that.
It's a great idea.
I'm saying you being individual counties, cities, whatever.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Anyway, I did.
Charge higher rate if it's for playing cards.
There you go.
I will add to that, Deidreana Freeman Chair. I would add to that I think that'll be helpful in the tour that we're going on to share our new Central Pines, COG.
Yes, ma'am.
That's probably a good way to tack it on.
Yeah.
So it's not just a flat conversation, it's dynamic.
I agree.
Sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
To answer part of your question for Lee County, did you get a grant to renovate the old courthouse?
Oh, yeah. That was a few years ago. I mean, we're just now in the design phase. It took forever for it to come to life, but I think it's been 2 years in the making.
I should probably say thank you for that. But I'm also thinking about things draw together a number of people. They're the benefactors because they're able to do it by virtue of scale, using our scales.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, thank you for those funds.
You mean like pollution reduction?
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. Any other questions? If not, I'm going to open the public hearing. And if there are anyone in the public that would like to share any input or comments regarding our COG budget of the TJ COG fiscal year 2023-2024 recommended budget? Now would be the time. There's anyone else that has questions? If not, I'm going to close the public hearing and ask for a vote to propose the proposed budget for the next board meeting.
Madam Chair, I move that we adopt the budget as presented.
You don't
Kathleen.
need, you don't have to do that. It's not up for adoption tonight.
Okay.
Hey, cool. All right.
We'll just move it to the next meeting.
Yeah, we'll have the resolution for consideration at the May meeting. I'll be meeting with the officers for so if you have any additional comments or thoughts, feel free to reach out to me or certainly to any of the board officers. And we'll be meeting sometime in May, date to be determined.
Yeah.
To talk about that.
Hey, Rick and Apex, you said you emailed the budget to the regional managers, part of the list.
Yes.
Do you, in that May meeting, are you going to summarize the feedback from those folks as well? As part of the final vote? Is that usually part of it?
Yes. I actually have gotten no feedback from managers on the budget.
They're in budget season.
They're in budget season. I think I was one of them.
Can't imagine they lifted.
And I also 2 months ago sent a heads up to the managers where the cap would impact them. Just to give them a heads up, hey, I'm thinking I'm gonna probably have to raise dues and this, and let me know if you got any issues, and haven't heard back from anybody on that as well. And I should have said, part of also what I'm doing is we do charge some of those local governments a $1,500 per year fee for some of the work that we're doing on the MPO. And so I said, we're not going to charge that anymore. That's just like an extra. We'll just roll that into the dues increase. So I'm trying to get away from some of these little charges that we do and try to roll that more into the dues. Because it's hard for our finance staff. It gets lost in the city. Sometimes they don't know who it goes to. And so we're trying to do some swapping around that too.
You didn't want to charge a seat fee and a baggage fee and
I'm trying not to be.
and a landing fee and a.
Trying not to do that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. If we don't have any comments from the public, I'm closing the public hearing and we've moved forward. And that will be at the next board meeting. I'm going to move again to our executive director's report and turn it back over to Executive Director Lee Worth.
Okay, thank you. Just three quick things. One, this is the last meeting for the board in this room. I know I've said that a couple times. This is really the last meeting. Some of the dates have slid and stuff. Not our issue with architects and stuff. We're pretty sure this is the last meeting here. The seals are going to be coming down starting tomorrow. Movers come the 7th and 8th of May. For those in attendance, if you'd like to, I'm happy to walk you through. Some of you have seen part of the space that's already renovated, and then we've got our temp space opened. I can walk you through that if you have an interest just to see. We're going to be shutting the suite down on the 3rd of May. And they may start some demolition pretty quickly after that. And so we're excited about the renovations. I think we're in pretty good shape. A lot of credit to the staff. They've come in several times for work days and cleaned and purged and we found some really interesting documents and a very overdue library book that some of you may have seen on LinkedIn that I turned into the Wake County manager that was due in 1986. And some other stuff, but we're excited about the renovation. And so our board meeting will not be here in May. We'll let you know where it's going to be soon. But we'll look forward sometime in the summer to come back here and this part be done, and then we'll get going on the really big meeting room. And then on the rebrand, we are well underway. As a reminder, the board authorized us to send the amended charter for the name change out to our local government members. I think as of today, we have three approved charters back, and we need 32. So we're getting there. Our goal is to have this effective July 1st. I've heard from many local governments that it might be on the May meeting.
There is a deadline for the municipalities to get there.
Yeah, we'd like, if at all possible, we'd like to see it adopted in May or June so that we can have the name change on July 1st.
Right.
So yeah, we appreciate it. We have an example of some of the new branding. If you came, folks that are here in the lobby, a banner that I think is really, really beautiful, showing the new brand. And I think when you come into the new space, you're going to hopefully be impressed with how we're going to incorporate the brand into the space. So we're excited about that. The last thing I want to say, and I appreciate Madam Chair doing the moment of silence. For those who may be virtual, you may not, I don't know if you can see the flower there for Mr. Cyberling. But he was just a really neat guy. And I was pretty shocked to learn that he had passed away yesterday. He didn't pass away yesterday, but I learned yesterday he had passed away. But he loved coming here. He loved learning from you all. And I think that's such a powerful message about how you as elected officials can come together and share and build relationships and learn from each other. And even in a town of 300, Mr. Cyberling just so enjoyed coming here. And he would ask all sorts of interesting and sometimes a lot of questions. But I can't ever forget him inviting us down, and we thought we were heading to town hall, and he was like, "Nah." Said, "Come over to my house," and we walk in, and there's snacks and tea, and I mean, we just sat in his living room and talked. He loved band. It was really cool to see the impact he had in Moore County around music. And so, anyways, I just wanted to take a moment and just say how much I appreciated what he did for Cameron and the region. So thank you for allowing me to do that. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. And I would follow with saying, I want to appreciate the flower shared today, just to kind of keep him present with us all today. And moving to the chair's report, I will do want to appreciate in your sharing of the budget. I noticed the Central Pine, landing showing up as kind of a transition that's really helpful, I think, to help us move forward. And just sharing that, I appreciate the colors showing and mirroring that new branding that we're moving towards. And then I also want to take a moment and appreciate all of our county partners who are with the COG, who allowed us to move this meeting up so that next week's City Vision with the North Carolina League of Municipalities could be as full as possible with all of the municipal attendees that would be here and the alternates as well. And so I'm looking forward to that. I will share that our National League of Cities, which is the partner with the North Carolina League of Municipalities, the National League of Cities, Women in Municipal Government, the president is Cheryl Booker from the town of Tryon, and she's having our national partners, all of our national Women in Municipal Government members attend the WIMAGE conference in Charlotte in August. And I want to encourage, all of you are not women, but it's important to support. Encourage you to figure out how you can be supportive and making sure that this is a phenomenal event for the state of North Carolina. I think it brings the national attention we need. And so make sure you send your clerks, your city managers, your city attorneys who are women on along to the conference in August. So say it's August 9th through the 11th. And it's going to be a phenomenal chance to network and just discuss some of the things that folks are working on across the country. I think the last time it was in North Carolina was, I don't know if it's ever been in North Carolina, honestly. I think the conference was actually in North Carolina, but not the women. So
What's the name of it again?
the National League of Cities, Women in Municipal Government. And so it's open to staff and municipal employees, and as well as the elected officials. And so it's been a phenomenal piece of my work. I will say it's been supportive, and I served as a previous women's president for the state North Carolina League, and then I've been a member of the National League women's since I started. I will say that that's also building on my push today because I've been so supported. Just noting our city, the county, and the schools are coming together to do a day of remembrance, just acknowledging there's been a lot of gun violence in the schools. And I think people are kind of like hardened by it. They're not realizing like what impact it's having on our children. And so I say this often whenever we have a shooting in Durham. I don't think I've ever mentioned it here, but I do think that, you know, people just seeing it on TV, it creates trauma. So just imagine what it looks like in a child seeing these high profile, you know, killings and murders and having it at school. It builds that fear. You hear children say things like, my stomach hurts, my head hurts. They don't necessarily know that it's anxiety or whatever in them. And so we're just trying to center that, you know, child part of this, and that our school, like it's a lot of gun violence in our schools. It's just ridiculous. But I do want to call on anyone who's interested to bring that type of resolution to their cities, towns, or counties to reach out and let me know. I will share what we have put together thus far. Our wonderful school board member, Javanya Lewis, who's I want to say she's a clinical psychologist, and she works with children, put it together, and she's been pushing us all to get on board. So May the 15th, we will have a day of remembrance at 10 a.m. And I should have brought it up last month, but I didn't get that. I didn't get that far. So, but yes, I would be happy to have as many of our COG members involved as possible. I think we all, you know, experience some shape or form of this and have, you know, different voices in it, and we should center all of them as best as we can. So outside of that, on a positive note, I did encourage a colleague, Dr. Monique Posey Hyman, to join us. I didn't introduce her earlier, giving her a little bit of a pause. She's been trailing me today. But she's a wonderful member of my council, and I'm hoping that she'll be interested in joining as an alternate, possibly. We'll see what happens. And definitely getting engaged with some of the staff on some of the different committees that are available. So just making sure she knows what the resources are. Also, we have a budget to vote on, so make sure she. But beyond that, that's all I have. And I want to thank you all again. I know that my year is coming to an end, and I'm looking forward to turning off the gavel. And it's really been interesting in this time of transition, knowing that we're going from a completely different, like doubling the space from 9,500 square feet to 21,000 square feet. And yeah, being a part of this has been kind of a awe, and like a shock and awe, but it's a good awe. So I appreciate, I can't say enough how great our staff is, and just thank you for doing what you do every day and keeping us all informed. And the support you provide is definitely worth every penny. Thank you. And I will move to around the region and hear from our fellow folks in the room and then on the online. If anyone. I'm definitely going to start with my.
Your comments. For recognizing our good friend there. I didn't know it that well, but I feel like I know it better now just from your comments. You know, we are busy working on budgets, I guess, like everybody is. So it's just challenging year. That's our main focus. We're encouraged by things in our town. The VA has committed up here. I think we had a groundbreaking on that. I guess it was about a month ago, and had some shows over for them. We excited about it and some good things. We're hearing from Wake Med as well, with some construction there with and also some exciting things for the town of Garner. But that's all for now.
Thank you, Ken Marshburn and Town of Garner.
Bill Carver from Lee County. I think one of the most important things that's happened to us is we had a reevaluation that came in at 46%. So obviously, we're looking at trying to see how we can ease the pain by reducing our tax rate. But I don't think we're going to be reducing it 46%, but it causes one to empathize with people who are trying to deal with inflation, et cetera. But also the opportunities that we might have to raise some salaries and compete in the with from other counties to take our people on occasion, and teachers and things like that. So, in particular, one area was our law enforcement personnel being able to help with people like detention officers and stuff. So, I guess county government gives some and it takes some. So depends on what side of that you're on, how enthusiastic you are about it. But it was a sobering number. And I appreciate the feedback and the responses tonight on the government and on the budget and seeing how you spend the money, et cetera. I'm relatively new to the organization and it helps me understand why it's important. So I thank you for that care that you take with presenting those things. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I have something. This is Susan Evans of Wake County.
Okay, Susan.
In the spirit of regionalism, which we're all about at the COG, I wanted to raise up that our board was able to approve a distribution of hospitality tax and food and beverage tax money distribution to small projects throughout Wake County. We took RFPs last fall. We had a little over $8 million to spend. And we just awarded money to the town of Garner, to the town of Cary, to the town of Apex, and the town of Wendell for various parks and recreation projects to be partnered with them on those projects, and also some funding to Marvel's Kids Museum. So, so for those of you who don't know, Wake County is allowed to collect hospitality taxes and food and beverage taxes. And the largest majority of that funding we allocate every few years to infrastructure at the Raleigh Convention Center and the PNC Arena. But we are able to, through an agreement with the city of Raleigh, appropriate about $2 million a year for these small projects to spread throughout the community. And so we're just excited that we were able to help each of these efforts and look forward to that partnership, and just encourage all of you to come to Raleigh and buy food and beverage, and we'll help more people.
I'll make a quick comment. This is Ken Marshburn in Garner. Commissioner Evans, thank you so much. I was quite remiss. I didn't get very good notes about things that we've benefited from in our town of Garner, but certainly your grant to us there is going to help with our park program, and we're so grateful. So thank you for reminding me of something I should have said.
Our pleasure.
That's what our county partners are for, right? Yeah. Catch your back.
So I had one, Brett Gant, Apex. In my day job, I work for the EPA, and it's actually our office that administers the climate pollution reduction grants. They're freaking out right now about trying to administer that, by the way. But the story is, I think those grants. How do you feel about climate change and about environmental stuff? a lot of that money is can go toward things that are like energy efficiency and electric vehicles, and a lot of the things that not just maybe will reduce climate pollution, but also reduce energy usage, save money in other ways. So I think it's a really exciting opportunity, regardless of how you fall on that spectrum. It's worth taking part in because it'll be a really great for your community either way. So I'm excited about that. I'm not personally part of it, so I can kind of talk about it a little bit. But it'll be I think it's in the billions of dollars in total, and the planning grant that we talked about and the state will do, it will be a really great resource to kind of figure out the best use of that money. But it's definitely worth being excited about it and taking part in, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. I think our climate resiliency work has kind of built that kind of cross bridge for everyone. So, yeah, that's, sorry.
Don Raines, Mayor of Princeton. Actually, I wanted to talk about Johnston County, and Bush Water is totally on line, but he's not. I know there's 2 or 3 mayors in Johnston County, it's online, but first I want to thank the staff for helping the town to micro. They're coming up in the world, and that helped get some in compliance and moving forward. And you're helping all our small towns in Johnston County. And I really appreciate that. But most importantly, we had a meeting last night with 3 county commissioners and 11 municipalities were invited over there. But we had a hodgepodge of water and sewer projects in the county, and there are 2 municipalities that share 1 plant, and Princeton shares their own plant as well. And then there's interconnectivity of all the other plants, but the bottom line is we don't have any governance and no real policy of how we do things. Through Lee and your staff, we're going to learn how to sing harmony and work on a water and sewer authority. So thank you, Lee.
Good job, Lee. And if we have any additional around the region updates online, I think we've covered everyone in the room. If not, I'm going to move us to other business. If we don't have any other business, this meeting is going to be adjourned
The other business is adjourned.
at 7:51.
You're punctual.
Good night, everyone.
I appreciate all of your help because I can't do it by myself.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
I have a question about the shock and awe. Is that your management style?
Oh, gosh. I don't know. You can ask them.